Good afternoon, morning, evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today at Industrial Cyber Day 2025. My name is Eserjose, and I'm honored to join this important conversation focused on the evolving cybersecurity landscape across the manufacturing sector in the APAC region. Now, in this session, we'll take a closer look at the threat landscape affecting industrial environments, explore practical risk management strategies tailored for OT systems, and outline steps to build more a resilient OT security program. So my aim today is to share insights grounded in real-world experience and to spark dialogue on how we can strengthen our collective cyber resilience in OT and ICS. So let's now take a deep dive into the latest threat landscape observed in APAC's manufacturing sector, focusing on operational technology and ICS. So our observation analysis from 2024 to early 2025 highlights 6 dominant threats, themes that every manufacturing security leader should consider be tracking closely. So first is the ransomware, dominates as the top threat. Ransomware remains the most pervasive and damaging threat to manufacturing OT environments in the APAC region. Attackers are now tailoring payloads to disrupt industrial operations, not just encrypt IT systems. We've observed targeted campaigns where the OT network was deliberately impacted to pressure firms into paying, and in some cases, attackers exploited shared credentials or VPN connections to pivot into ICS environments. Second is in APAC region are increasingly exposed through their third-party relationships. Threat actors are compromising software vendors, system integrators, and contractors to silently infiltrate OT networks. So this was evident in multiple cases where adversaries embedded themselves through routine software updates or maintenance activities. The complexity of supply chains in manufacturing makes this a persistent blind spot. Third is the third of the that we're saying is the nation threat actors have intensified their focus on manufacturing firms tied to strategic infrastructure. There are sectors such as semiconductors, automotive, and energy-related production, so often leveraging zero-day vulnerabilities and living off the land techniques. So their motive range from espionage to preparation for future disruption. The fourth one is the surge in OT and ICS vulnerabilities. The volume of publicly disposed vulnerabilities affecting industrial controls systems has surged. So from last year, 2024 alone, over about 1,000 ICS-specific CVEs were reported globally, and many impacting manufacturers here located in the Asia region. So there's a significant proportion of this remain unpatched due to system downtime constraints, lack of visibility, or vendor dependency. So it creates a growing backlog of exploitable weaknesses. Fifth is the attackers exploit industrial systems. So we're seeing scenarios, real-world exploitation of industrial protocols and equipment like Modbus, DNP3, and proprietary vendor protocols are being used by attackers to manipulate a process or exfiltrate sensitive operational data. In many cases, security teams are blind to these actions because traditional IT security tools don't monitor OT traffic effectively. And the last one is that legacy systems remains as a major weakness. Finally, legacy systems, some over 15 years old, continue to pose serious security risk. Many were never designed with cybersecurity in mind, lack basic authentication, and can't be easily patched. So these systems often operate in flat networks without proper segmentation and making them easy targets once an attacker gains on a foothold. Now, on this section, wanted to share some occurred incidents across APAC manufacturing sector from mid-2023 to late 2024. This cases highlights the operational impact of cyber attacks in OT environments and provide a clear mapping of attacker tactics. So May 2023, Suzuki India suffered a ransomware attack that forced production to halt for 3 days. Although the initial compromise occurred in the IT network, the attackers were able to move laterally into the OT environment, impacting PLCs and causing an estimated financial loss of about 8 million. So this case is a textbook example of how poor segmentation and third-party access can enable crossover attacks. Second is the Fox Semiconductor in Taiwan, January 2024. They were hit by Lockbit through phishing attachment. So the attack encrypted around 5 terabytes of SCADA-related data and delayed production for 10 days. This demonstrates the direct manipulation of control systems, not just the data theft or encryption. The third one, March 2024, Rockwell CVE 224-21915. It's APAC-wide. It's a widespread exploitation of Rockwell vulnerability that allowed threat actors to execute scripts directly on PLCs. So it resulted in unauthorized logic changes across multiple APAC sites. Now, these attacks emphasize the importance of monitoring programming activity on ICS devices and keeping firmware up to date. And the next is the BMW Hong Kong. It happened July 2024. In this case, phishing led to the compromise of vendor account, which was then used to steal confidential OT blueprints. So the attackers demanded about 15 million in ransom after exfiltrating sensitive intellectual property. So here in this incident, the focus was on espionage rather than disruption, which is a growing trend in high-value manufacturing. And then last is ASCII. It's an electronics in Taiwan, August 2024. A ransomware group gained access through a publicly exposed application and exfiltrated 500 gig of data. And the attack disrupted OT operations and caused cascading supply chain delays. So this incident highlights how exposed services and credential reuse can lead to serious downstream consequences in supply chains. So I've highlighted, top, I'd say 5 commonly abused TTPs, because I think this is one of those important to look, especially when consuming OT threat intelligence. So I'd like to share that these 5 TTPs were what we observed were repeatedly in the recent incidents targeting manufacturing in OT and ICS environments across the APAC region. Now, these patterns, it helps us to understand attacker behavior, so it can help organization, prioritize defenses and align mitigation strategies in actual real-world threats. So first is exploit public-facing application and poorly secured or outdated web services exposed to the internet, including HMIs, remote access tools, and update servers are frequently exploited. So attackers can scan for these services, exploit them to gain access, and then pivot deeper into OT networks. The next is the loss of availability. Many attacks in operational disruption, not through data theft, but by corrupting or encrypting key OT assets. So this tactic has been observed in ransomware cases where the intent was to force a halt production to pressure the victim into paying, because safety is the utmost priority in OT as well. And then spear phishing attachment. This remains one of the most consistent initial access vectors. Attackers target employees, especially third-party contractors and engineers, with malicious attachments disguised as a vendor documents or a project document. So once opened, the payload allows attackers to establish a foothold and pivot toward OT systems. And then next is valid accounts, credential theft or abuse of legitimate accounts, often through phishing, credential reuse, or weak access controls has been a top method for lateral movement. In many cases, these credentials provide VPN or RDP access, allowing attackers to bypass perimeter defenses. And then last is scripting. Advanced actors use scripting to automate attacks or manipulate controller behavior. This includes scripting inside engineering workstations or injecting automation script directly into PLCs. It's particularly dangerous because it bypasses traditional IT monitoring tools. Now, while these are the top 5 techniques we're actively tracking, I'd like to add 2 more that are increasingly critical, especially in manufacturing heavy sectors across APAC. First is TO833, which is a program download. This involves unauthorized logic downloads into PLCs and controllers. It's subtle but dangerous, often bypassing traditional detection tools unless you have deep packet inspection or runtime integrity checks in place. So we've seen this in watering hole attacks where threat actors like APT41 compromise ICS software updates and insert malicious logic. These attacks aren't just theoretical, they've led to actual disruptions in plant operations. And then second is the default credentials. So this one should be a low-hanging fruit, but it remains a huge issue. Many HMIs, SCADA, and even IoT devices is still run with default credentials like admin 1234. Threat groups like Lockbit or CLOP are exploiting this to move into OT environments with ease. So a real-world example on this is that a semiconductor plant in Taiwan was compromised due to exposed HMI running default settings. So the result, significant downtime and operational loss. So these are not just isolated cases, but there are warnings. So the goal is to move from reactive defense to proactive hardening, especially in sectors that can't afford operational failure. So across all incidents, these TTPs reflect a mix of low effort but high impact techniques like phishing, credential abuse, as well as more advanced attacks targeting process logic and system availability. So organizations should use these insights to prioritize detection, harden access controls, and monitoring OT-specific behaviors. Now, we have the information of what's really happening in the industry. We have the information in the TTPs. It's always a question of, what do we do with this information? Cyber threat intelligence is only valuable when it leads to decisions, defense, and disruption of attacks. So, how organizations should assess or map similar vulnerabilities into their environment, how organizations adapt, like update their risk scenarios, how do they design their tabletop exercise and prepare their mitigation plans, and how do they act? How do they share intelligence with their teams, IT, OT, management, and take proactive steps? Because the true purpose of knowledge is action. So we go from knowing about threats to actually building resilience. And one way is through OT threat modeling. And this is where we actively support our members. So our goal is to help members build context-driven, risk-informed response plans, not in isolation, but with shared knowledge from the community. So when we talk about threat intelligence in OT, at least especially when we were starting within OT ISAC, we often assume that every risk is threat-driven. But in reality, not all risks come from attackers. Many are rooted in infrastructure, legacy systems, poor segmentation, overexposed devices. And that's where OT threat modeling plays an important role. It becomes powerful. So to build resilience and to support our members, we aim to bridge these two worlds, threat intelligence and threat modeling. And this table that I'm sharing with you outlines how they could complement each other. So threat intelligence tells you what to look for, like the TTP's IOCs, threat actors' behaviors, example, TTP's use from threat actors or indicators linked to specific OT attacks. And then OT threat modeling tells you what it means for your environment, where you're exposed, who needs to act, and how you mitigate or respond. We start in the OT threat modeling with network maps, asset inventories, and known exposures. So, we support our members to help them to look on segmentation, remote access points, and system interdependencies. So, I think it's really going to be a challenging for any organization that if they don't know their assets or or their exposures, it's going to be difficult for them to model risk. And Intel itself won't help them or help you prioritize. Now, for the frameworks that are commonly used, both MITRE ATT&CK for ICS, we're currently adopting Embed as well for understanding attacker behavior and device level risk. We're leveraging Stride or custom frameworks to identify spoofing, tampering, denial of service. So we help members map out attack paths using these frameworks, even if they're just starting out. Now, on the output, we want to highlight on of threat intelligence, like it provides threat maps, actor summaries, what are the trending TTPs, example, a report showing top TTPs targeting PLCs in the water sector. And the threat modeling gives you attack paths, risk map, and incident response playbook tailored to your architecture. I think it's also important that when you combine this information, you can validate if your playbooks are aligned with real-world threats, not just theoretical risk. Now, the most important as well is to identify who acts on it. The threat intel, for the threat intelligence, it's used by your SOC threat analysts, and then the modeling is acted on mostly by OT engineers, plant managers, and security architects who control the systems daily. It's crucial that these teams talk to each other, collaborate, work together intensively as Intel helps identify the threat. Modeling tells you the blast of a radius. So I think the threat intel gives us situational awareness, and then the threat modeling outcome enables action on what to do when it happens. This is one of the most famous line that that we've heard in one of our meeting session. Threat intel tells you what could happen. Threat modeling tells you where and how it would happen to you. So I think this is one of the I'd say critical step that organization could look and consider as well. Yeah. So for call to action, I think we want to highlight. I just want to highlight this three points. Make it real. Map threats to your environment. The most important question is that what does this mean for your organization? Identify which threats or risk are relevant to your specific systems, sites, and operations, and prioritize accordingly. Don't wait for the perfect tool. Start by mapping just one scenario using today's insights. Second is turn those information insights into preparedness. How prepared is your organization? Take today's threat intel or any information that you obtain from any community sharing and validate it against your own environment. And of course, lastly is to contribute and learn from the community. My experience, I would say before OTI SAC, I would say that I was very lucky that I engaged within the right community that has given and enlightened, what are the information what are the steps, information, if you're started in or building a team in OT, what are the information or how do you upskill your team? And mostly, you get that within the community. Cybersecurity, especially in OT environments, is not a solo effort. The more we share, the stronger we all become, because many of the most insights don't come from external reports. They come from peers facing the same challenges as you are, same journey. Whether we contribute to the community, we break silos, accelerate learning, and strengthen our collective resilience, you'd be able to gain early visibility into what are the threats or regional attack trends within not only OT ISAC, but other communities as well. You could look on how other operators similar to your sector are responding to similar incidents. You could exchange and discover real world use cases, controls, and response strategies. And I think, build trusted connections for peer validation. So every experience is valuable. Even if you're just starting, your questions, your feedback, or incident observation, be active within the community because it could help someone else prepare. So at OT ISAC, we serve as the trusted hub for OT in the APAC region and globally. So we bring together asset owners, operators. We partners heavily with government and industry experts to share threat intelligence, drive collaboration, and strengthen the security in critical sectors. So just to share a bit of what who we are. So we're part of the Singapore OT Master Plan that were launched 2019. The Singapore OT Master Plan has 4 pillars, and second pillar is to facilitate the sharing of information through OT ISAC. And then there was another revision last August, and it's to amplify and strengthen the information sharing. So our mission is to share tactical strategic security details, providing early insights into threats, detection techniques and containment measures. And it's a collaborative effort from the community. Exchange information includes, vulnerabilities, attacks to the system, relevant IT applications affiliated with OT as well, and to share some of the some case studies on how we support the community. OT threat modeling was not really in the membership services initially. So this was formed. This service or this support was formed based from the feedback from our members, because we're having a collective discussion with them on their challenges, and we realized, okay, this might be something that we could support you all. So we support members in building their tailored OT threat model aligned with leading industry frameworks. So it involved their detailed network architecture review, and it also empowered the member to clearly identify vulnerabilities and prioritize their risk mitigation strategies based on their actual environment. And then we also support the training, what made it impactful, at least for the last 5 years, is that how we grounded the content in real challenges our members are facing, making the learning immediately applicable. And then lastly, the OT ISAC support throughout the year. We responded to multiple member requests for threat insights and analysis that include malware signature enrichment, vulnerability assessment, and briefings on emerging threats affecting industrial systems. So this is also possible. We're not doing it alone. It's a collaborative effort from our members, from our partners as well. So this information or insights allowed the community to make informed decisions and enhance their defensive strategies, especially those in charge in protecting their critical sectors and essential services. So as the cyber threats continue to evolve, whether it's ransomware halting production lines, vulnerabilities in embedded devices like PLCs, or sophisticated attacks exploiting supply chain trust, our operational environments face real and growing risk. The reality is that no single organization, no matter how advanced, can see the full picture alone. Main priority is to really minimize the risk. So in the community, your insights matter, whether it's reporting suspicious activity, contributing best practices, or joining collaborative exercises. Each action strengthens the fabric of regional OT cyber resilience. So let's keep moving forward, not on isolation, but together as a network committed to protecting the systems that keep our industries running. We welcome you to be part of this journey, not just to benefit from it, but to help shape it, because I think, the strongest defense we have is each other. So thank you for all your time and attention. I'm happy to, I'm open for questions if we still have time. And I hope today sparked new ideas, perspectives, and sense of shared purpose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, AJ. I'm looking, I don't see any questions. Anything from the group? Not seeing anything. So, yeah, it's a very good presentation. So, thank you very much for highlighting not only the collective efforts of the OTI SAC, but also I think it's good to frame up the different sources and the difference between what threat modeling is more specifically, and then looking at MITRE embed and then stride, understanding what you have. Also, it would be looking at the documenting not only your inventories and things like that, but also your processes, becoming more aware of what are the processes that we have so that we understand what's the threat impact. I think something that you had said that was very important is that there may be threats that don't even pertain to you, right? So if you know what your processes are and what the critical assets are within your production environments, then you can correctly assign, where those threats would even be relevant. Maybe you don't have, there aren't relevant threats in other areas. So excellent presentation. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And have a great rest of the day.